All right, let's jump into another deep dive. And today we're taking a look at Celosia cultivation. And our source material is a blog post written by a guy named Ang.
Okay.
And Ang, he's got this website, kianmeng.org. And the tagline is Musings of an Old Software Plumber.
Interesting.
Yeah, so kind of a funny juxtaposition there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. A unique combination.
Yeah, he writes about gardening and fish keeping
Oh.
and programming.
Oh, wow. A lot of different interests.
And this post, the one we're looking at about Celosia, is actually tagged as his 404th post about gardening.
Wow, that's a lot. That's quite the archive.
It is, it is. So he must have a ton of experience with gardening.
Oh, definitely a seasoned gardener, it seems.
And in this particular post, it's really interesting. He takes a really, I don't know, a sort of unconventional approach to
Okay.
growing Celosia. And he actually put his seedlings through kind of a boot camp, exposing them to some harsh conditions.
Oh, wow.
Like really intense sun and heavy rain, almost to test their resilience, it seems like.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That's a bold move for somebody with so much experience. I mean, it sounds like he's always looking to learn, right? Always experimenting.
Yeah.
And he even starts off the post talking about his past attempts at growing Celosia and reflecting a little bit, which is something I think every gardener can benefit from,
Yeah.
no matter how experienced they are.
It's like taking stock of your garden's history, you know? You can learn from your successes and failures.
Exactly. Exactly.
And speaking of learning and kind of this experimental approach, he does something pretty unusual, I thought.
Yeah.
Instead of starting his Celosia seeds in those seedling trays, he decides to direct sow them, just plant them straight into a pot.
Huh. Interesting. Direct sowing can be a bit of a gamble, especially for beginners. You're really, exposing those seedlings to the elements.
Yeah, I mean, he basically left them to fend for themselves. He talks about how he gave them minimal watering and only one dose of fertilizer within like a month. But despite that, those Celosia seeds, they germinated beautifully.
Oh, wow.
They even developed strong stems, lush foliage. Some of them even flowered.
Really? That's impressive. That says a lot about the hardiness of Celosia.
Yeah.
They don't need to be babied.
Yeah, exactly.
I was curious about something, though. In the post, he mentioned that he regretted not transplanting the seedlings sooner.
Yeah, he noticed some stunted growth, especially around the edges of the pot where they were all crowded together.
Yeah, that makes sense. Transplanting is really crucial for any plant. It's all about giving those roots the space they need to spread out and access nutrients properly. Like, imagine being stuck in a crowded room.
Yeah.
It wouldn't exactly be ideal for growth, right?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And that actually makes me wonder, how do you know when it's the right time to transplant seedlings? Is there like a telltale sign to look for?
That's a great question. And, a lot of gardeners struggle with that. But a good rule of thumb is to look for 2 to 3 sets of true leaves. These are the mature leaves that develop after the initial seedling leaves.
Okay.
Those first ones that pop up.
Gotcha.
Once you see the true leaves emerge, that's usually a good indication that the roots are ready for a bigger space.
So true leaves equal time to move. I like that.
Yeah.
But going back to his method, the direct sowing method, he compares it to using seedling trays. And he even compares it to how he propagates basil. And he says both basil and Celosia, they thrive in trays.
Interesting. It is interesting that he chose to direct sow these Celosias, especially since he seems to favor seedling trays for other plants.
Yeah.
There's no denying that those trays offer, like, a more controlled environment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a carefully managed nursery for your seedlings, providing them with that optimal space to develop.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then why do you think he went with direct sowing for these? Do you think it was just to test their hardiness?
That's certainly possible. He seems to be quite the experimental gardener, as we said. But there's another factor to consider, I think. He repeatedly mentions in the post that Celosia has an incredibly high germination rate, regardless of where you get the seeds from.
Right.
So it might be that he felt pretty confident in their ability to thrive, even in those less controlled conditions.
That's a good point. So it seems like even if you're a new gardener, Celosia could be a good plant to start with.
Oh, absolutely. And remember, even if you're not initially drawn to, like, the way Celosia looks,
Yeah.
the ease of growing them,
Yeah.
and those vibrant colors
Yeah.
can be really rewarding.
I agree. So we've heard that Celosia can handle a bit of neglect. They sprout really easily and they don't require a lot of fuss.
Yeah.
But hold on, there's more to this.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely more to unpack here.
Let's dive back in.
Okay. It's interesting how his experience with Celosia, with gardening, It kind of ties into his other interests,
Yeah.
programming, fish keeping.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, just think about the skills you need for each of those.
Yeah.
Whether it's debugging code or setting up an aquarium or even gardening, there's a lot of problem solving involved.
Yeah.
Observation, adaptability.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like you have to have this experimental mindset,
Yeah.
that willingness to learn and try new things.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
And it's not just about gaining that knowledge, it's about applying it.
yeah.
Which brings us back to Eng's Celosia experiment. Transplanting seedlings, it's not just about moving them to a bigger pot. There's a technique to it.
Oh, okay. I've got to admit, I've kind of just dug a hole and plopped the seedling in.
Well, one thing you can do is
Yeah.
gently loosen the soil around the roots before you transplant them.
Okay.
That can help minimize stress and encourage faster growth.
That makes sense, yeah. Less shock to the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And one other thing to keep in mind is the post focuses on just one specific type of Celosia. But there's actually a whole world of Celosia varieties out there.
Really?
Yeah, each one with its own unique characteristics, its own growth habits.
Oh, okay.
Some are known for their feathery plumes, others have those crested blooms, and they come in all sorts of colors, reds, oranges, pinks, yellows.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. I've always just pictured those bright red, almost brain-like flowers.
Yeah, a lot of people think of that one, but there's so much more variety than that.
So you're saying there's a lot more to discover.
Absolutely. That's what's so exciting about gardening, right? There's always something new.
I like that.
Just because one type of Celosia grows well in Eng's garden in Malaysia doesn't mean it'll perform the same way somewhere else.
So don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things.
Exactly. Embrace that spirit of experimentation.
I like that. But let's go back to something you mentioned earlier about transplanting seedlings and reducing stress. Are there any other things gardeners can do to help their plants thrive, especially when it comes to something like Celosia, which we've established is pretty low maintenance?
Well, even though Celosia can handle a bit of neglect, they still really appreciate good drainage. You don't want soggy soil.
Right, yeah. Soggy soil leads to root rot.
Exactly. And that can be a death sentence for any plant.
Okay, but how can you tell if your soil has good drainage?
Well, there's a simple test you can do. Dig a hole about 12 inches deep and fill it with water.
Okay.
If the water drains away within an hour or two, you're good.
Gotcha.
But if it takes several hours or even days, you might need to amend the soil a little bit.
Right, right. So drainage is key. What about sunlight? How much sun does Celosia need?
They love the sun. You want to give them at least 6 hours of direct sunlight every day.
Wow. Okay.
In fact, the more sun they get, the more vibrant their colors will be.
Oh, interesting. So a nice sunny spot.
Yeah, that's ideal.
But what if your garden is mostly shaded?
Well, you can try a spot that gets morning sun and afternoon shade. They might not be as robust.
Yeah.
But you should still get some nice blooms.
Okay, so you can still give it a shot,
Definitely.
even if your garden isn't like a sun-drenched paradise?
Yeah, for sure.
This whole direct sowing thing got me thinking. Are there other plants that can be direct sown successfully? Or is that pretty specific to certain types?
Oh, there are a bunch of plants that do well with direct sowing. Things like beans, squash, cucumbers, even some herbs like dill and cilantro.
Okay.
Those plants tend to have larger seeds that germinate quickly.
Gotcha. So bigger seeds, faster germination.
Yeah.
But going back to Celosia, you mentioned they don't require a lot of fuss. But I'm guessing there are still some things you should avoid doing.
Oh, absolutely. One common mistake is overwatering.
Yeah.
Celosia are pretty drought tolerant,
Right.
so it's better to underwater them than overwater them.
Don't drown them with affection. I like that.
Exactly.
What about fertilizing?
They do benefit from a balanced fertilizer, but be careful with nitrogen. Too much nitrogen can lead to lots of leafy growth, but not many flowers.
Oh, okay.
So you want a fertilizer with less nitrogen and more phosphorus, which helps with flowering.
So easy on the nitrogen.
Right.
Now, what about pests and diseases?
Celosia are generally pretty tough, but they can be prone to fungal diseases, especially in humid environments.
Okay.
So good air circulation is important, and try to avoid overhead watering.
So keep them dry and breezy.
Exactly.
Now, I know we've been talking a lot about the practical stuff, but I'm curious about the aesthetics. You mentioned all these different varieties with different colors and textures.
Yeah.
How can gardeners incorporate Celosia into their landscape to make it really visually appealing?
Well, they're incredibly versatile plants. They can be used in a lot of different ways. Their bright colors and unique textures add a touch of drama. You can use them in borders, containers, even cutting gardens.
Cutting gardens, so you can use them in bouquets.
Oh, absolutely. They make excellent cut flowers.
Oh, wow.
They last for weeks in a vase.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And those unique shapes and colors just add a little whimsy to any arrangement.
I like it. What about using them in borders? Any specific examples?
Well, imagine you have a border with tall, leafy plants in the back. You could put some celosia in the front
Hmm.
to add a splash of color, or you could create some contrast in texture by pairing them with plants that have really fine, delicate foliage.
Oh, I like that, playing with those opposites.
Yeah.
What about container displays?
Oh, they do great in containers. And since they stay relatively compact, they're perfect for small spaces. You can combine different celosia varieties in one pot, or pair them with other plants that have complementary colors or textures.
Okay.
For example, you could plant a tall celosia with some trailing petunias,
Hmm.
or some creeping jenny to get a cascading effect.
Those are some good ideas. Celosia really are versatile, but you know what? I think there's a bigger picture here. We've
Hmm.
talked about growing them, the different types, how to use them in a landscape.
Right.
But I think there's something to be learned from Aang's experience that goes beyond gardening.
Oh, I agree.
What is it?
I think it's about his mindset.
Yeah.
This approach to celosia cultivation, it reflects a way of approaching life in general. It's about experimentation, observation, and continuous learning.
Oh, I like that.
Don't be afraid to try new things. Push the boundaries. Learn from your successes and failures.
Cultivate a garden of knowledge.
Exactly.
So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into Celosia, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember? What's the most important thing about growing these plants?
I think the biggest takeaway from all this is that it's okay to break the rules sometimes. Aang didn't follow that traditional seedling tray method, but he still ended up with these amazing celosia.
Yeah, that's true. There's no one right way to garden. You have to find what works best for you and your plants.
Exactly. It's all about the journey,
Yeah.
the process of discovery.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to try new things, make mistakes, learn from them.
Embrace the unexpected, like those surprise downpours. Something I was curious about, Aang mentioned that Celosia seeds have a really high germination rate. Why is that? What makes them so good at sprouting?
That's a good question. It has to do with the structure of the seed itself. Celosia seeds have a pretty thin seed coat,
Okay.
so moisture can get in there easily, and that triggers germination. Plus, they've got a good amount of stored energy.
Ah, so they're ready to go.
Exactly. It's like a built-in starter kit. And that, combined with their hardiness, makes them a good choice for pretty much any gardener.
So if you're looking for a plant that's easy to grow, visually stunning, and packed with meaning, Celosia is worth checking out.
Definitely. And don't forget about all those different varieties out there, from flamingo feather to chief mix. There's a celosia for everyone.
Yeah, so many options for your garden. You could have a border with tons of color, or containers full of different textures, or even a cutting garden full of Celosia for bouquets.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be an expert to grow them. With a little bit of care, anyone can enjoy these amazing plants.
So to wrap things up, what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to try growing Celosia?
I'd say don't overthink it. They're pretty low maintenance. Just give them good drainage, plenty of sun, and a little love. And they'll reward you with a beautiful display.
That's great advice. So to our listener, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to give Celosia a try. Remember, gardening is all about discovery. So embrace the unexpected, experiment, and most importantly, have fun.
Happy gardening.